Hey, welcome to Wrestling Travel presents the Lockdown Sessions. This week's Lockdown Session is brought to you by True Heel Heat Podcast. Please go check those guys out. They are killing it on the podcast side. I always say, if you're going to listen to one new podcast, listen to my boys True Heel Heat and girl, Chrissy, I didn't forget her, out of New York City. If you're going to listen to two, check out our Wrestling Travel Podcast. I believe we're going to be on episode 5 or 6 by the time this airs. But enough about that. Let's talk about who we have in the studio tonight. We'd like to give you a warm welcome to Ty Awesome. Ty, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I really appreciate you reaching out and, meeting up with me. It's really cool, man.
Oh, man, absolutely, man. We've been looking forward to it. We've had a few, as times go, we've had a few scheduling snafus, but we were hoping to get this out earlier, but we're always happy to get it done when we can get it done. We're going to give you, we're going to start at the beginning. The entire point I started this lockdown session is to find out what people have been doing during this ridiculous pandemic. But in order to get there, we got to start at the beginning. How long have you been in the business, Ty?
I had my first match in November of 2014, so I assume it's going to be 6 years coming up.
Your anniversary coming up, fantastic. And who trained you?
So when I got my training, I ended up being trained by Sonny Deeds at a Spinebusters Wrestling Academy. And then, I usually was doing my maintenance with Mark Harrow's training school, which was called Totem Pro. But because of COVID and everything, that's currently shut down. So right now it's me at the gym until I find something that opens back up.
Yeah, it's just such a wild thing. I would get there later, but I want to find out right now what your gyms are open out where you live right now. Like, are you to work out? Have they been open for a while now, or
maybe 2 months? Yeah. We've been probably open for 2 months. I go to Planet Fitness. I'm the typical guy, you know what I mean? I go in, they don't take the scan key anymore. They make you do the app deal. So they don't know touching or anything like that. So they scan you in, you have to wear the mask when you go to the machines, but when you're working on the machines, you can take it off. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, as long as you clean up the machine after you use it, that's fine with me. So
that's what I was going to ask. Are they making sure everybody's cleaning up, wiping them down?
They should. I mean, I hope so.
The reason I ask, I've talked to so many people from really around the world since I started this, and it is so different everywhere. Now, I'm in Wisconsin. In June, first weekend in June, we were able to have pro wrestling shows with fans, which some states have been like, that's not happening until 2021 at least. So
that's crazy.
It's just crazy the way it goes. I was just off of Warrior Wrestling in Chicago this past weekend. Had about 500 fans. Now, check them out online. It was socially distanced. You were no closer than 15 yards. It was in an outdoor football stadium. They let the fans in, like if you came with your family, that group was let in. They did a great job. They wiped the ring down after the matches, wiped the ropes and everything. So they were being very safe with talent and fans. And I got to tell you, once you're able, and we'll talk about this, once you're able to get out to your next show with fans, you are really going to be appreciative. I tell you what, it's awesome. No pun intended, Ty Awesome, but it is awesome when you get to have fans. So what made you want to get into the business? When you're a young Ty Awesome, when you're just a little awesome, when you turn on that TV, who catches your eye?
If we're going to start from the very beginning, what I fell in love with as a child was Power Rangers. So, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, something, fall in love with as a kid. My whole childhood, that's what I wanted to be. When I grew up, career, Power Ranger, that was me. So that really is what started it. I really started watching pro wrestling around the time. I think I remember my first Monday Night Raw was when John Cena got drafted to Raw. So that was my very first experience to wrestling, and that was a very exciting episode. So that's what started it off. What really made me believe as a kid in myself to be a professional wrestler was watching Paul London, Brian Kendrick, all those young SmackDown Cruiserweight division guys who were really tearing it up. So a lot of those guys were really my early influences on, wanting to become a pro wrestler and believing in myself. So that's really where it started was, all those things came in together and became one thing. So I ended up being able to wear my tights and, be a kind of a Power Ranger, but not fully. But hey, it's the closest thing I could get.
Bro, I think that is the closest you can get to being a Power Ranger right now. That's pretty exciting. I mean, that's especially, I've talked to a lot of people who are a lot younger than me getting into the business, and I'm really glad because I've met him and he's been really cool. But that a lot of people are looking up to Cena. There's not that Cena hate that you see on the internet that he's, because I tell you what, the few minutes I got to spend with him, he was super great dude, and I know why he held the torch for so long.
Oh yeah,
trust and yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the most talented guys that there is, for sure. Especially now that I've grown, you really can appreciate his hard work and how long he stayed there. And he's just, an all out athlete. He may not do everything every match, but if you really watch a lot of his good matches, like if you look with CM Punk, or if you watch the parking lot brawl with Eddie, he's got a lot of good matches that are under his repertoire that people forget about. So I really appreciate Cena and what he's done for the business.
And the funny thing is, you would read online that the internet smart fans, oh, he never puts anybody over. I'm like, he puts everybody over.
He has put. I mean, there's been times, but now that he's not wrestling anymore, he's seen times where he should have gone things one way or another, and he's admitted to that. But a guy of his caliber, who's held that company afloat for so long, kept that train going. The closest thing that someone's had to Hulk Hogan, would be Cena. You know what I mean? And he's been that franchise player for so long. And there was reasons for that. It's because he drew money. He could hang in the ring. He could talk on the microphone, and he could do it. And Vince trusted him with that. And so I don't blame him. I don't blame him for being over the majority of the time he is, because when Vince has that faith in somebody, that's Vince is going to rely on that guy. So that's completely understandable.
So many stories in other companies where guys have had opportunities slip through because they've slipped up or they're late. It's not somebody that can be trusted to represent the brand. So yeah, he is the one. The kids that are now, growing up and getting there. If we go to wrestling in a phase, I believe we all go very similar like this. We watched it hardcore as a kid. We're backing out of it phase, and then all of a sudden we kind of get back into it. And I think some of those Cena kids are maybe in that back out phase, which is not a bad thing right now if you're considering the TV wrestling, but they're going to jump back in and have these stories about Cena, especially now that Cena's gone Hollywood. They're going to go Hollywood. Have you had a chance to meet Cena?
I have not. I have not had a chance to meet Cena. So
mine was so happenstance. It was ridiculous. But I remember just going, hey, while I'm here, can I get a picture? And you do the old, before social distancing, you do the old arm on the shoulder. And it was like I tell everybody, it's like I was touching concrete. Dude was just jacked. So, but couldn't have been a nicer guy. Just serious, focused, but nice. So you start training, and I'm looking at your history of stuff that you've done. ECWA champion. That for our folks across the pond, that's one of the, if not the oldest, longest running independent organizations out there. Am I right?
Yeah, it currently is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been around for. And you've wrestled. Now we're jumping around because of my lack of journalistic integrity, but now you go from a kid watching John Cena on WWE to you're in the ring with the Viking Raiders. How many years later? What is
Man,
that like for you?
man, I just to think about that, you know, I didn't even know if you were gonna bring that up or not. I never really talk about it, but man, it was the most. I'm getting goosebumps. It was the most. You know, you're a little guy under these big lights. You know what I mean? And you grow up your whole life watching and just imagining, you know, as a kid, like that's where I want to be. I want to be under those bright lights. I want to talk on that microphone. I want to let these people know what's up. You know what I mean? And I've felt like that since, you know, I was started watching wrestling when I was, let's say, 11 years old. I started watching wrestling. So I wrestled on TV at the age of 24. So 13 years of watching wrestling. And I got to perform inside the very ring that I've been watching for my whole life, practically, you know. So it's definitely one of the most craziest experiences I've ever had. Definitely one of the most rewarding, for sure. It was definitely, you know, a moment that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. It was total shock and awe until you know, the very end of it. I'm glad it went very well. Everyone was happy. You know, I got to talk to a lot of people that I never thought I would talk to before, so that's really cool too. So it was definitely one of the most awesome, not no pun intended, experiences of my life, and I'm very blessed and very grateful to have been given that opportunity by WWE, and I'm very thankful to have had that and the next night at 205 Live where I got to wrestle, you know, one of my childhood heroes, Brian Kendrick, and wrestle Akira Tozawa. So, you know, 2 nights in a row, you know, so um, to actually feel like you're one of those guys, for even if it's just a blimp, you know, on the radar screen, you know, um, and you know, it felt so rewarding, you know, and it was very nice, and you know, it's something I'll never forget. Like I said, I'm very grateful for it. I can't thank WWE enough for it, and hopefully I get to go back again and, you know, rock and roll some more, because that's definitely, you know, on the goal of plans to do.
What I've heard, and I've talked to several people who have done like the kind of the guest spots. There is, they're really impressed with how nice that locker room is and how inviting, treating everybody that's coming in to do the work for them like an equal. And did you have that same experience?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you go up and talk to somebody you barely know, they're open, they're ready to talk to you. I mean, I'm not just gonna name names to like name drop people, get myself over, but I remember, you know, I'll usually always go to Drew Gulak, because Drew Gulak is a smart, intelligent, best knowledgeable wrestler that I've ever met. And his brother Rory introduced me to him when I was there the first time I did WWE Extra Talent gig. So that was really cool. He's really cool. I got to talk to Pat Buck for a little bit. I remember picking his brain just about, you know, just little things like gear, you know, little things like that, that, you know, he thought were important and what I thought would be best to go out in. And, you know, Abyss was my agent for the Viking Raiders match. And man, he was super cool. I can't express how cool Abyss is. And he was very happy, and Vince was happy with him. So I'm very glad, you know, I could make Abyss happy. So, you know, definitely, you know, and the catering, oh my God, the food is great. The 2 nights I did Raw and 205, I didn't get to eat the catering because, you know, you're about to live your dream, your nerves are shot. But the first time I did WWE, man, the food is so good. But when I wrestled the Viking Raiders, it was in Baltimore. So in Maryland, I guess they do crab cakes and stuff like that in the catering. And of course, you know, I didn't get to eat any of the crab cakes that night. But it was a bigger reward for what it was worth. So, you know, to answer your question, yeah, it was really, everyone there is super cool. They're super nice. And they say people will find you, and somehow people find you when they need you. So it's really interesting and really cool. And it's a well-oiled machine that runs just like, man, perfection sometimes, you know what I mean? And, you know, people will complain and, crap on the company online. But man, what goes on behind the scenes, it's intense work that, everyone there goes through, not just the wrestlers, but the backstage producers, the writers, all those guys go through hard work. I watched the guys put up the lights in the arena. Like, those guys work hard, you know what I mean? So, everyone there is super cool. Everyone there is super nice. And, that's another reason why I want to go back, is to meet more people. So, yes.
Now, did you do the match with the Viking Raiders? Did you know that you were going to be on 205 the next night, or is that something they asked you after that match?
So Monday we do, I guess it's an audition. I got to meet the Raiders, and, they want to do their thing to get, when you go to a show, the plan is to get the guy over, that's always the plan. So I was selected to be one of the guys. And yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you get selected, you get told what you're doing, and then you do it. It was a really cool thing with them. And then the next night, they'll sometimes do practice matches before SmackDown. So we did a practice match, me and the actual guy that I tag team with, Brian Thomas, or he goes under the name Brian Hardy on the indie circuit. So I wrestled him in the practice match, and we just did something real simple. Kept it easy. After that, they were selecting who they needed for 205 Live. They chose Brandon Scott, who is a well-known wrestler. You know what I mean? I don't have to say anything about him, because his work speaks for itself. And they said I fit the perfect build for 205, and so my size was the bonus for me in that aspect of it. So no, I didn't know that it was going to be a 2-night thing for it to be on 205 Live. I knew I was going to be there for 2 days. You don't know. Sometimes you're there twiddling your thumbs, eating catering, like I said. But I got to enjoy both nights and make the most out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a tiny feather in the cap, knowing that, hey, you did all right the next night, that they're like, let's bring them back for another one. That's outstanding. And Brandon Scott, that was a guy I was going to get to a name. A guy I got to see wrestle a lot over in PPW in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Shout out to Paul Bowe. But I'd gotten to see Brandon wrestle quite a bit. Yeah, outstanding. And I know he got on there. There was a couple times I've seen him on there.
Good. He knows. He's good, man. Everyone knows, man. He's got potential to stay there. So yeah, he's definitely very good.
I'd like to see a guy like Brandon Scott, just because unless you're kind of in this world, but if you're kind of a casual fan and you're in the Midwest or on the West Coast, you might be sleeping on a guy like him. So it'd be nice to see. What a nice, we had Kikoa on, and he threw down the challenge for Cody. And I'd love to see some of you East Coast boys on TV, on the AEW or whatever it is. So there's a lot of talent, in case you are watching from the UK or anywhere else in the world, but the East Coast, you guys are a lot of talent. That ECWA, to hold their title, that lineage is ridiculous. The number of the people that have held it. Of course, none of these awesome names are going to roll off the top of my head right now, but Kikoa being one of them, I believe. Or no, was it Maryland champion? I get it messed up. There's a lot of stuff going on over there.
Held both. He's held both.
That's held both. Okay. Have you wrestled for MCW?
I've not wrestled for MCW Wrestling. I have been to a Joey Mercury seminar there once. They're very selective of their guys, which is no harm to them. They want to be like, WWE. They want to be like TV wrestling. And, they do their thing. They do a good job at it. They know what they're doing. If they want me, they know I want to be there. So, and I'm a Maryland boy. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't wrestled there, but I'd like to.
You got a lot of time. Speaking of wrestling, though, what is happening this weekend?
So this weekend, I'm actually making a return to wrestling. Doing a little taping, nothing real too serious. I don't know really what I'm doing yet. I don't know if I'm going to get on the microphone, have to call somebody out. I don't know if I'm going to have to just, join a match and see what's going on, or if they're going to, highlight me. So it's all going to see what happens. Maybe I have to jump a guardrail or something. We'll figure it out.
Hey, after 6 months or whatever of being locked up, you'll do whatever it takes, right? If you got to jump a guardrail, you got to jump a guardrail.
That's it, man. To make your statement, sometimes you got to do those things. You're not. Other people aren't always going to put you over. Sometimes you got to go ahead and do, things for yourself.
100%. What's you talk about? You've been in the business for a while here, working and talking with a bunch of different people. Could you put your finger on some of the best advice that you've received?
You talk about Keikoa. So, to catch you up with a little bit of me and my history, me and Keikoa have actually been like really close friends for,
Okay.
We actually, had a little, when he would really kind of watch over me, when I first started, because he saw that, I guess he saw that I had a little bit of potential, or that I reminded him of himself a little. But as soon as we met, we kind of hit it off real well. He was one of the people who wanted to have people believe in me too. So he really invested time in me. It's kind of grown me into a man behind the locker room, like in the locker room. You know what I mean? So I owe him a lot of, my advice. Same with Rory Gulak Drew. Sorry, Drew's giving me some good advice. But if I was to say, like, Keikoa, one of the biggest things that he's ever told me was to, listen to the advice that's given to you by other people. But, there's good advice and there's bad advice. Some things you got to wave out, and other things you have to really take in and listen to, and know where you're getting your advice from. If you have a guy who's going out there and, is throwing, Irish whips with the right, things like that, you don't want to take advice from that guy, or who's not telling a story. So I learned that real early from Keikoa, which was really cool. I've heard so many things. Scott Armstrong, after I did my, or right before I went out for 205 Live, he, sent me a sign. He said, "Hello, I'm Scott Armstrong." I said, "Yes, sir, I know who you are." And it was kind of a weird thing. And he was like, "Okay, well, that's cool." And, he kind of told me just to keep doing what I'm doing, get in the gym. He watched me in the practice match I had. He said my footwork was good. He said, if he saw more of me, that he could probably see me back there. And so that was really cool. That wasn't really advice. I mean, he told me to kind of keep doing what I'm doing, and that I have a knack for it, I guess. But I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything,
No, and
but,
I know where you're coming from. You're a very humble dude. So I'm just.
But so that was really cool. And that's just a couple of things that were told to me that really stuck home.
Yeah, nothing makes me more be at a show. A couple things you touched on. The guy doing the tucking the suplex in the right arm, then giving advice, or the guys that don't. And I don't know. I'm old school, but the guys that don't wipe the feet before they enter, I just have an issue with that. And then I do the same thing. I tell everybody who's a rookie or I'm like, dude, I went to training camp up in Montreal last summer. NCW had us up, and I was talking to some younger guys. I go, dude, watch your trainer's feet.
Yeah.
Taking about 75% less steps than anybody else in here. He's smooth. I go, and I'll focus on just kind of below the knee when I first see some people. And if you watch the feet, it's ridiculous how much you can learn from that.
Dance, wrestling's a dance, footwork's important.
I never had the best footwork, but you can recognize it. When you see it, that it's just like, okay, Jeff Brissett up there, he's just going. He's just dancing in between all these guys, and everybody's got that happy feet where you're, it's like when you're a kid first learning football, or probably basketball too. Like, okay, if you can eliminate that little half a step there, you've got that advantage. So
and being
No,
light on your.
yeah, being light on your feet. But yeah, I've been in places where people try to lock up with you right-handed, and
Yes,
you're
I've heard.
smacking each other in the face. And I was at one place, and I won't name them, but locked up. We're practicing, and I look at the guy who owns the place, and I go, "What the frick is going on?" Oh, we teach him to go right-handed or left-handed. That way, in case somebody makes a mistake, I go, "Brother, I'm like 20 years old, and I know you're just asking for trouble."
Uh,
You know, one way to eliminate mistakes, do it the right way. Everybody teaches. It was
well,
ridiculous.
and yeah, do that. At least not unless you're going to somewhere like Japan. Like, there's. I know they like to wrestle right, but so I mean, to each their own. But I'm traditionally a left guy. Because that's just what I was taught, and that's what I was told to do. That is American wrestling. So
Right, and if you're in, yeah, if I'm in WCW or WWE Japan and they tell me to do it that way, okay, but
yeah, if they're
uh,
paying me yeah, I'll do it. Sure, absolutely, thumbs up.
if I'm in a barn in southern Wisconsin, might not listen to it. Who now? Tozawa, Kendrick, the Viking Raiders. Now, those guys aside, give me some pretty awesome names that you've been in the ring with. May not be internationally known, but over in the ECWA, who are some names we should be looking out for?
So, for the bigger names, I've been in the ring with Greg Excellent, renowned indie wrestler. I've been in the ring with Ricky Reyes, Anthony Green. I've been in the ring with my original trainers originally were Mark and Jay Briscoe. They taught me my basics. So I've been in the ring with Mark and Jay Briscoe, training, not matches, but hey, who else have I wrestled? I've been in the ring with Azriel, who was an ROH wrestler. Let's see what else I got here. I've been in the ring with I've been in the ring with Chase Owens, Bullet Club member. I've been in the ring with him. I got to wrestle him at the ECWA Super 8. Mr. Grimm, who just appeared on AEW Dark. Keikoa. Those are a lot of the, I guess, highlights of the names I've gotten to be in the ring with. So that's just a snippet.
No, these are always tough questions because you always are going to be like 5 minutes after we hang up, go, "Oh, I left so and so out," or so and so.
Another good name who's getting his name out. So there's a lot of people I could probably think of, but my brain's just not fully there. But those are a lot of the highlighted guys I've been in the ring with. I've been in the ring with Sonny Kiss, AEW wrestler. So Jordan Oliver, MLW. Yep.
Now this one I'm gonna leave out the local guys so you don't have to worry about offending them. But before all is said and done for your in-ring career, was there anybody out on that international scene, national scene that you're like, you know what, he's kind of my bucket list guy? Are there a couple guys that you're like, hey, I'd really love to get in the ring and tear it up with this guy?
So if we're thinking non-indie, that's what we're kind of like.
Yeah, because I don't want to offend the indie guys, because you could probably, I know that you've been on the road with a ton of guys, and you're probably like, yeah, every one of these guys, I think we could do something cool. But if you had a bucket list of a few legends,
a lot of are young and just breaking out. Leo Rush is one guy I want to wrestle. I wanted to wrestle him before he got signed to WWE, so that's definitely one guy. Joey Janela would be another guy. He'd probably beat the tar out of me, but that's another guy. Let's see who else. Trent Beretta, I'd like to wrestle. Chucky T, Cassidy, Orange Cassidy. I was going to say, I've heard good things about Leon Ruff, who's just been recently on TV, so I'd like to, see what he's all about. And, I try not to think of the big league guys who I'd like to wrestle because I never envisioned that. So, of course, Finn Balor. Matt Riddle is definitely one of my, favorites to watch right now. So that's another guy who I'd like to be in the ring with. There's a lot of good guys. I got to talk to Lindsay Dorado. He was really cool. I'd like to be in the ring with him. A lot of good names that I'd like to be in the ring with. There's a lot of people still growing there who I'd like to be in the ring with. So
Hey,
that's just to name a few.
speaking of Janela, he wrestled at that Warrior card, him and Jake something.
Uh,
Yeah, I haven't watched very much of Janela's matches, so take this with a grain of salt, but that was a killer match, and I thought it was outstanding. I was really impressed with Janela.
Janela can go. I've been on shows with him. He might not know it, but I've been on shows with him, and he can go, and he's hardcore as it is too. When he wants to get hardcore, he doesn't give a flying f. You know what I mean? He does not care. He does not care, which is really cool, especially for the hardcore, deathmatch wrestling fan. He's and the bad boy gimmick is original, so I dig it. He's good. He's really good. I think so.
Whole new respect for him. So Wrestling Travel Tie, as you know, we're based out of United Kingdom, where we bring wrestling fans to their favorite wrestling events around the world, be it WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo. If you haven't guessed it, this is the travel question of the show as we start to wrap up here. But have you been able to wrestle over in the UK ever in your young career?
Never. To be honest with you, man, I've never even been on a plane. I've never don't even have a passport or anything like that.
Oh, man, we're gonna
bucket list I want to do. I was supposed to go on a trip to Florida here and go on my first, plane ride, but COVID, travel ban, stuff like that, quarantine. So, not trying to do all that, So,
let me tell you, my first plane ride, I was all about it. I'm going to give you my advice. There is such a thing as turbulence that they never really show you on TV. At least they did in my day. So while the plane just does a little shimmy, I'm grabbing like the wall in the seat, and people are looking at me. They're still doing their crossword puzzle, but I don't know why in my head.
I've heard it.
Yeah, I thought it was just going to be this smooth thing, and then it got a little choppy, and then I think I flew out to Providence, Rhode Island, and there was a snowstorm, so they circled the airport for like an hour. But these turns, I swear it was almost like sideways, and that has turned me off from now since I've flown to England and Australia and New Zealand. But that first experience on a plane, I mean, I am always, every time I get on a plane, up until I get on the plane, I'm nervous as hell, even to this day. And then once I'm on, I'm like, well, I'm on. Here we go.
That's it, all or nothing.
Yeah, I always want to fall asleep on a plane, but for some reason, my brain thinks I have to be awake in case something bad happens. So, yeah, we got to get you over to the UK and stuff. Last question here, because I want to be very respectful of your time. We started, no, actually 2 questions. I always lie to you. That's the thing on the interview. So my second to last question is, wrestling wise, during this lockdown, besides going to the gym, I mean, there's only so many bathroom mirror promos that you can do. What have you been doing to stay connected in wrestling? A lot of film study, or what's been the deal, or have you kind of just taken a break?
Honestly, just kind of stepped aside. I was kind of, stepping aside right after I was on TV. I went through just a little quick hiccup of an injury. But so really after this COVID is my comeback. Because even before COVID, I wasn't really wrestling. Just because, I had some stuff go down. It's, like I said, a little hiccup. So, but right now, my focus is to come back better than ever, to, learn just like I always have. I've just been doing a lot of studying and a lot of watching. I went back the other day and I rewatched the Eddie Guerrero tribute shows on Raw and SmackDown. If you look at those 2 nights, those are no storylines, which, is, with WWE, you don't see it very often. And it was a very passionate night for a lot of those wrestlers. I didn't realize, a lot of the wrestlers who were even on that card, you don't remember, like Juventud Guerrera. King Cash was on one of the cards. But I definitely remember like watching Chris Benoit versus Triple H. Touchy subject probably, but just a very good passionate match of back and forth. Guys who were passionate in the business, and really passionate wrestling is really what I've been really getting into, because moments make everything. So when you can find something that, like myself can, relate to or feel and grasp what I'm watching, that's what I want the viewers to watch when I wrestle. I want them to feel something. I want them to, like Macho Man and Elizabeth, when Elizabeth jumped the guardrail and hugged Macho Man. Those are moments. That wasn't even a wrestling maneuver. That was a moment. And that's the things I've been really starting to learn, is that it's not all about the moves or the attitude. It's about the moments that you bring, not only to the story, but to the fans, because those are the ones who are, there for you. So to have them fully invested, that's really the thing I've been focusing on, is trying to learn those aspects of wrestling to create moments as opposed to moves.
There's a lot of great quotes out there about exactly what you're saying about leaving them with that feeling, because that's something that you can't replace. Like, you're gonna have kids watching Ty Awesome and go like, I was there. I don't remember who won the match. I don't remember this, but I remember that was the moment when I'm
that
like,
was
hey,
that was a deal. Yeah, you can't buy moments. You can only feel and remember, the moment. So.
And one other question before I get to my final is, I always talk to people that I love independent wrestling. I love the big time. Don't get me wrong, but I love independent wrestling equally. I will ask people when there's independent wrestling close to me, hey, are you going to go to the show? And they'll say, oh, that's amateur pro wrestling because it's held in a high school. It's held in, I'm like, no, listen, you can pay your money and go to WWE and sit in the stands, but your experience is going to be totally different from independent wrestling. Can you explain that somebody who's maybe on the fence, just throw COVID out, pretend we're living in a normal world and we don't have to worry about COVID or germs, but if they were on the fence about going to an independent show, tell them what that experience is like for a fan. I mean, what are they missing out on? What's the vibe like at an indie show?
So with indie shows, it's a whole nother experience. It's a very personable experience. I feel like you really get to, with intermissions, you really get to meet your superstars that you watch wrestle. You're watching the superstars that you possibly might be watching on Mondays or Wednesdays or Fridays or, whatever days wrestling is on. Those are the guys that you might see in a couple of years and be like, yeah, I saw that guy before he was big. You know what I mean? So always finding new horizons of wrestling is really cool too. There's a lot of different abstract styles of wrestling. I've seen, lucha styles. I've seen masked robots wrestle each other. There's a flavor of wrestling for everybody. So really, it's relatable to anybody, and it's definitely more personal at an indie show. You know what I mean? You get that up close, personable feel. So that's something I find cool, and you get to meet the superstars, buy their merch, which is really cool. It's a personal experience. That's how you build relationships with your fans too. A lot of things, like when people ask me like what makes it different, I use my dad as kind of like a example. My dad was a wrestling fan as a kid, but as soon as he found out, the sports entertainment aspect of it, he was out. My family comes from kickboxing and stuff like that. So, watching me love wrestling as a kid and become a wrestler, and he's actually been one of my biggest fans, biggest supports. He's with me at every show just about. He also contributes to the business. He films, and he does all different kinds of editing and different things like that. So once you find that love for wrestling, it's not always there right away. But I know, like I use my dad as an example, that when you go to an independent show, you see more of the show. You know what I mean? It's a lot more to see. You see all the fans. You're all in it together. It's literally a sports event. You know what I mean? And my dad went from not being a huge fan to loving and appreciating wrestling and what it is. So, and that was indie wrestling. He didn't really watch Monday Night Raw or anything like that until, we started sitting down. Wrestling's kind of helped us build a relationship too. After I graduated high school, me and my dad really started to build a relationship. And then when wrestling came involved with it, he joined me. I mean, it just, me and my dad just had an awesome relationship. We still do. So, wrestling builds relationships. And I think that's a real important reason why you need to attend your local indie show is important. You know what I mean? So that would be my answer to that.
Oh, that's a cool story. That's a really cool story. Yeah, and if I'm at an indie show in the crowd and I boo Ty Awesome, you're going to hear me. You're going to react to that. And
Right.
I can't tell you how I'm going to put words in your mouth, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your average independent wrestler, I can't tell you how much they appreciate your fandom, fans being there, supporting them, cheering, booing, buying merch, just coming up and saying hello.
That's it.
Is a big deal for the wrestlers. I know that it is appreciated more than the average fan knows.
Oh, it's big for the kids too, because like me, you know what I mean. Like I watched Paul London growing up, and that's what really made me believe. So to have kids that see me, which is not your musclehead jock. I'm not huge. I'm your acrobatic, 450 splash type of wrestler. And kids, they love and believe something that, like David and Goliath. You know what I mean? They want to fight for that underdog. They want to believe for that underdog. So kids are very important too. So if you want to occupy your kids, bring them to a wrestling show too. So.
Yeah, they'll be in awe watching somebody do a 450. So final question here is always the most important question I ask, because it's the reason why I started doing this. How can we as wrestling fans from around the world, what are your social medias? Where can the fans go to keep up with Ty Awesome? Do you have merch, or you have a PWT stores? Tell us all about how to keep up with you.
Right. So I don't have a PWT stores. If you want to buy merchandise, you can just email me on Facebook at Ty Awesome. So you can do that, or on Instagram at Ty Awesome, or I got Twitter, which is at Ty Awesome Pro. So those are going to be my main guys. You can catch a lot of my matches and a lot of independent content on my dad's YouTube page. It's Papa Scott Productions at YouTube. There's a lot of content on there, all different kinds of indie wrestling. Wherever I go, my dad's coming. So he films the shows typically and edits them himself. So check out all the footage there. There's a lot of content of years of just wrestling content. So definitely check out that. You know what I mean? Support us wrestlers. We love it, and my dad appreciates the views. So he's always got his own ego up.
Oh, well, yeah, subscribe to. Spell Papa Scott. Is it P-A-P-A or P-O-P-P-A?
P-O-P-P-A. Scott.
All right, like Big Papa Scott. Awesome. So we will do that. Ty Awesome. It was, well, I won't say it. It was fantastic to have you on. Now that we got Papa Scott stuff to go through, we'll have to do this again and watch a few of your matches. But we wish you nothing but the best of luck on your return, however that works out on Saturday. And let's do this again after wrestling gets back to normal, and check up and see where you're at. But thank you for joining us today.
I love the interview. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I can't appreciate you enough for taking the time to email me and reach out, because little things like that, us wrestlers really appreciate too. Especially right now in a time where we don't have any, content to push or anything like that. Having these interviews and stuff, those are important to us. So, thank you. I really appreciate it. And, your work doesn't go, unnoticed. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. That's the entire goal here, is just helping each other out. So thank you. We'll do this again, Ty Awesome.
Sure, man. Thank you so much.